Woman, do you love me? Woman, do you need me? Woman, if you need me then... That is a great bit, Gordon did. If you need me then, believe me, I need you to be my woman. Gordon couldn't get the high notes, and he was sort of, I just let them go and do it again. But they did it the next time, as a mammoth Peter and Gordon treatment. You know.
Whilst both John and Paul would write independently for artists other than the Beatles, the songwriting credit was always jointly billed as Lennon-McCartney, or in the case of the first album, McCartney-Lennon. This dates back to a verbal agreement that they had between them not long after they met as teenagers, later formalised in a legal agreement in 1963. The creation of Northern Songs committed Paul and John to compose at least 18 musical works over a 3-year period. John kept to this and the subsequent renewed agreement right up until the end of the Beatles in 1969. Even John's solo Give Peace a Chance contained the Lennon-McCartney credit, despite Paul having no hand in the writing or the recording. However, Paul broke this convention on several occasions and did so as early in 1965. This was with Woman, a song Paul wrote that year for Peter and Gordon under the pseudonym of Bernard Webb in the UK and B. Webb/A. Smith in the US. Paul explained the reason for this in a Beatles press conference in LA on the 24th of August 1966.
You have written quite a few numbers for Peter and Gordon, and I understand they don't like it because they think that it's you writing the song that makes it popular. Do you plan to write any more songs for them?
If we write songs for, they ask us to write songs for them if we do it. I mean, they don't mind it. They like it, but it's... People come up and say, we see you just getting in on the Lennon-McCartney bandwagon. That's why they did that one with our names not on it, Woman. Because everyone sort of thinks that's the reason they get hits. It's not true, really.
John remains silent to this particular question at the press conference. Post-Beatles, he spoke of wanting to destroy the Beatles myth, so maybe on this occasion we might infer that he was complicit in the plan and shared Paul's intrigue about whether a song would succeed without the Lennon-McCartney moniker on it. On his way into Abbey Road for the start of what became the Sgt. Pepper sessions, John acknowledged that the Beatles could well be working separately in the future.
Could you ever see a time when, in fact, you weren't working together?
I could see us working not together for a period, but we'd always get together for one reason or other. You need other people for ideas as well, but, and we all get along fine.
Then a year later, Paul was once more credited without John for his contribution to the movie soundtrack for The Family Way.
To me, if you are blessed with the ability to sort of write music, film scores were kind of an interesting diversion. And George Martin, being able to write and being able to orchestrate and being pretty good at that, I think got an offer through the Bolting brothers for him and me to do some film music for The Family Way. So I had a look at the film. I thought it was a great film. I still do. It's very powerful, emotional, soppy, but good film, I think, for its time.
In 1995, Paul commented, "Talking to Yoko, it turns out John was not pleased. But I didn't know till a year ago that he wasn't pleased. He always told me fine, because he'd been acting in a film called How I Won the War. So we started to do little solo things just for a change, just for a break, and so I assumed. I asked him, is it okay with you? He said, yeah, fine. But Yoko told me he was actually a little bit put off by that because he hoped probably that I would say Lennon-McCartney will write this together. But to me, it seemed a good opportunity to get away from what I did normally. But Yoko just told me apparently John was a little bit hurt about that. Paul's contribution to the Family Way movie was fairly minimal. Around October in '66, he wrote 15 seconds of music for the film's main theme. When he came back from his safari trip in Kenya in late November, he wrote another extract, the film's love theme, which would later be known as Love in the Open Air. George Martin picks up the story in a '66 interview with the NME. I went to America for a time and on returning realised we needed a love theme for the centre of the picture, something wistful. I told Paul and he said he'd composed something. I waited but nothing materialised and finally I had to go round to Paul's house and literally stand there till he'd composed something. John was visiting and advised a bit, but Paul created the tune and played it to me on guitar. I listened and wrote it down. It is a fragile yet compelling melody. I arranged it for woodwinds and strings, and we called it Love in the Open Air. It's quite haunting. What may have rankled with John somewhat was that it was Paul who was to win a prestigious songwriting award.
We actually even got an Ivor Novello Award for the best film song that year.
Without any album releases for over a year since Revolver, the press began to speculate about a possible Beatles split. On the final day of 1966, the NME published one such article with a picture of Paul at the Family Way premiere. It left to Ringo to put the record straight, saying that the Beatles were very much united and in no way thinking of splitting. Despite two versions being released by Decca and EMI, Love in the Open Air was not a commercial success and failed even to chart. Shortly after it was released, Paul, together with John, returned to collaborating together and began work on Sgt. Pepper, but the seeds of the Lennon and McCartney songwriting partnership, writing alone, had been well and truly sown.